develop the passion for learning, be a lifelong learner.
Good afternoon, everybody. See, now I'm going to get you active in this. Right? You're too quiet. I don't deal with quiet. I'm a loudmouth. Can you tell? All right, so, title of my presentation, The Future of IT in the Cloud. Who's heard of the cloud? Who has any freaking idea what it is? I'm right there with you. Wait a minute. No, I actually do know what it is. I hope. All right, so first let's talk a little bit about me. All right. This is one of my favorite pictures, and it was taken when I was DJing one night, and literally the camera was right there, and I just panned it up. Because I'm kind of really a quiet, reserved person. What I really want to do is actually I want to kind of, it's interesting listening to folks talk. We talked about Richard and how Richard kind of built his career up. I'm going to spend a few minutes just talking about where I was. So, my father works in the software industry. He's a developer. I spent the bulk of my teenage years not working anywhere near computers. But the one thing my dad did do when I was 10 years old is he built me a radio station in the basement of my house. It literally transmitted across the street. And my dad was just in Seattle. He lives in Salt Lake City. He was just in Seattle and he was telling my entire family, including my 2 young children, the stories of how when Daddy used to play records in the basement, and then of course I, being 10 years old, go across the street and start playing across the street, and the next thing you hear is this, the records, right? The black things, you put a needle on them, right? I know you're giving me a and then all of a sudden one of us, either myself or my brother, would come running across the street. And then we'd put on the next record and we'd go back up. Of course that eventually led me into DJing. And this is long before the days when you could make money DJing. Right? You were essentially doing nothing but playing to entertain people. Playing to make sure people get drunk. Let's be real. Right? This was not a career by any means. Right? And then something interesting happened. I thought I was going to go to law school. And then I went to work. Besides DJing, I needed a day job because I needed health insurance. Right? I needed to be somewhat responsible, right? And you know, because going to Vegas every month. And so I took a job in a call center. And I was taking phone calls to place orders for Office for the Macintosh, and I will not give the version because it will date me. And then all of a sudden, this program from Microsoft came out, and it was about certification. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. In our call center, we actually took calls about this. So I kind of started looking into that. And then there was this product that we were looking to roll out. I understand at this time, NetWare had a stranglehold on everything, right? Every network operating system was all NetWare. We had this product that 3 guys who were part of this group I was working in were going to go learn. It was Windows NT Advanced Server, version 3.1. And they came to me the day before the training. They said, hey, look, we have an opportunity to go and learn about this product. And the reason why we're asking you is that we've noticed on every single computer that you take phone calls on, you've managed to hack your way around all of the games that we blocked out deliberately. True story. So spent bulk of my childhood trying to stay away from this thing, and I found out about networking. And I got bit by the bug. And so I started taking phone calls. I started working on the help desk. And then I started getting these certifications. I got certified and I moved up. And I became an IT manager, took over a call center, moved my entire family at the time was myself and a dog, down to Houston, Texas. Right? Hey, it's a big move. All the way to Houston from Salt Lake City. And then continue to work on and continue to get certified. I'm also a Microsoft certified trainer because I'm so much of a geek, as much as I avoided it all through my younger life. I love technology. I am a geek at heart. I love geeking out on stuff. That I couldn't get away from it at night. I had to go teach other people to be as geeky as I am. Because this stuff is really freaking cool. And so what happened around this time is we started to see that shift away from the network stuff and onto Windows, right? So I was able to kind of get in. Understand this. I'll be upfront and honest. I didn't graduate college. I spent too much time at the college radio station and out at night gallivanting around. Didn't finish college, but I got certified. And then I went to an event. Now my organization that I work in is predominantly developer. There's 4 of us guys that deal with the core infrastructure or IT professional stuff, and then there's 70 guys that do development. So we're kind of this small little niche. And I remember I went to this developer conference because I was helping out the hands-on labs, and I met somebody, and he had this title. It was called Technical Evangelist. I went, what the heck is a technical evangelist? And he explained what he did, how they go out and they excite developers. Right? They get developers excited about the future and building on the future of our platform. I'm like, wow, that sounds really cool because I like your other stuff, but like I like flashy, blinking lights, right? I'm a server hugger. That's what I do. Servers make me happy, right? That's what I love. That's my passion. Why isn't there one for IT? And a couple years later, back at the same event. Sometimes it's held annually, sometimes not. I asked the same question. They said, well, we have one. I said, great, I want to be number 2. So I went up and I did my interviews at Microsoft. Boy, is that an experience. An entire day I left just bruised and battered. Felt like I just, worked out for 12 hours straight. Got nothing out of it. And then I kind of was in this holding pattern. Ended up not getting that job. And I had worked at the same call center company for 12 years. And at the point that I said, hey, Microsoft said to me, hey, Joey, not going to work this time, I left and I went to work for another company. The interesting thing was I went from a really, really big enterprise to a really, really small company. Yet all the things that I learned in that big enterprise completely translated down. And then eventually, actually 2 months after I took that job, Microsoft called again. And they're like, hey, Joey, we want you to do this. Come up again. I said, sure, sounds fantastic. Went up. I ended up here, where I am today. And it's because of lifelong learning, and it's because of certification. And of course, embracing my inner geek. Which is kind of what we're going to do now, is kind of help and talk about some geeky things. So I asked earlier, who's heard of the cloud? Everybody raise their hands. Who knows what it is? 3 people raised their hands. They probably read the same article that I read yesterday on MSN. So we've got this great big definition. This is from the National Institutes of Standards and Technology. It's government-based. And they basically cloud computing is blah, 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 blah. That's how I read it, right? But there's some key words in there that I really want to kind of talk about, what I would kind of want to focus on. The idea is to change IT and to change the way that we are doing things to where things can happen on demand, via self-service, leveraging a shared pool of technical resources with minimal management. Now think about this. How many of you are allowed to bring your personal device into work today? Leverage it. Hands? Are we awake? Are we awake? Yes. Okay, good, because I didn't want to start dancing. You don't want to see me. Okay? I've got music queued up. Don't make me start. How many of you expect your work applications to be available to you whether you're in the office or sitting at Starbucks or on a plane at 30,000 feet? Okay? That's a pretty significant change from things even 6 years ago. You know, us guys in IT, us IT people, right? Anybody remember the old Saturday Night Live skit, My Company's IT Guy? Right? I love this skit. He comes up, he's like, move, 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 and he does it. I can't wait to get my NCSE. I'd be so out of here. Right? He's the impossible guy, right? What's the first thing that when you ask your IT guy for something, he says? No. Why? This is my world. Right? IT is changing. There's a great quote that I read in an article. It says, IT is a business within a business that no longer has a monopoly. They're exactly right. We used to be the smartest guys in the room with our pocket protectors and everything. Honest, I am. Right? But the business is starting to change. People expect more from our IT, and our IT has to deliver that. Now, how many people in here work in IT? Firefighting, right? That's all you do. Sally in accounting does not have kitty cat wallpaper, therefore she cannot function. Am I wrong, people? No. Right? I can't print, shut the company down. Email? Right? We're constantly fighting things in IT. The cloud is transitioning that because it's getting us out of the business of chasing down those servers that keep falling over on themselves, replacing backplanes, replacing hard drives, networking, everything else. Because there's a lot of functions, those core functions that we have, that we just don't need to be spending all of our time in. The change is that our business is now asking IT to the table and saying, Joey, we're number 6 in our market, we need to be number 2, and we need your support to get there. When I first took the IT manager role in Houston, I brought in the head of operations and the head of human resources. On my whiteboard, next to my office, I had them write 3 things that they needed IT support on. So I had 6 items on my whiteboard. I was the IT manager for 5 years, I crossed 1 off. Why? Because I was constantly chasing those fires, putting out fires, was not ever able to proceed. And look, IT costs money. HR wants a new system. We've got to invest in development resources. We've got to have system resources for it. We've got to go out and buy a server, right? If I were to ask you today, I need to create a SQL Server Business Intelligence solution, what size of server would I buy? There is no guidance, right? You go and buy the biggest, baddest thing that your budget can afford, and you put it in there, right? We started seeing this shift away from running a whole bunch of servers to running a whole bunch of servers on one server, which is virtualization. 5 years ago, if you would have told me that virtualization would be running business-critical applications, I would have laughed you right out of the room. And I'm a trainer who taught running virtual machines, which is exactly why I wanted to laugh you out of the room. But the technology has matured, and it's grown. So we've seen things leveraging shared pools of resources in virtualization. So with cloud technologies, it's all about adding the on-demand and self-service aspects of it, but that last item is huge for us in IT. Minimal management. Get out of the business of firefighting and get into the business of helping your business succeed. When you go to your manager and you say, look, we were up 99.9% of the time, your IT manager is going to go, where's the other 9? If you can go to your IT manager at review time and go, remember those 6 applications that we needed to get deployed out so that the sales service could increase their sales revenue? And the sales revenue has increased 22%, and we're now number 2 in our vertical instead of number 6. Yeah, we helped do that. You think your conversation and your raise is going to be a little bit better? Absolutely. So I want to talk a little bit about cloud, get a little geeky. What does my organization look like without cloud computing? Well, I've got some users there, right? And in my on-premises data center, I've got some compute resources, I've got some storage resources, I've got some networking resources. On top of that, I run applications. Anybody heard this from Microsoft lately? It's all about the app. Why do we work in IT? To give users applications. Period. That's our only job. Give them applications. Why do they need applications? So they can be successful. Right? Now, they may run those applications on their own on-premise, on your own on-premises infrastructure, on individual servers, or they may run them in virtualized environments. That's great. That's what an organization looks like with cloud computing. So you see I've got my applications there. Some are running on actual physical hardware, some are running virtualized. In cloud computing, there are basically, I could kill you with acronyms, right? I work for Microsoft. We're trained. We go to actual special acronym training. Okay, I'm kidding. We don't, but close enough. Look, people get all wrapped up in all these acronyms. It's simple. There's cloud applications, which means stuff that's running in the cloud. There are cloud platforms, which is what we build cloud applications on. And then there's this third category that we're starting to call, we talk about private clouds. Because when we talk about most clouds are public clouds, that means there's shared resources. And there's these pesky little things like compliance. Anybody deal with HIPAA? How about PCI? I actually still have hair. We were the #2 company in the world, the call center I worked at, that got payment card industry certified. That was not fun at all, right? Sometimes I'm concerned about my data. I don't want it to leave my premises. So we need to build private clouds. But the reality is that everything's built on cloud platforms and it's about cloud applications. Whether they're run publicly or privately, they're still really two things. Okay? That's basically what it is. So public cloud is a cloud platform that we make available to Microsoft. There's some other players in the game, right? A big bookstore, a big search engine, right? And we make these clouds available to many end user organizations. I mentioned the public or the private cloud, which is my organization. Here's the interesting thing. Most people hear the words private cloud and think they have to build it on their own premises. Not true at all. Not true at all. It can be a dedicated resource run by some sort of service provider, right? The technology, it's all the same. It's all the same technology. The economics are different. The reality is public cloud, the reason why the economics are good is because, think about it, when you buy one server, you're probably not going to get a discount. When you buy 10 servers, you can get a little bit of a discount. Imagine the kind of discount that you get when per month you're buying tens of thousands of servers, right? Economies of scale start slight in your favor. So why do we care about the cloud as an organization? Well, first let's kind of talk about another scenario here. Forgot about this one, hybrid cloud. You know, this frustrates the crap out of me. I love technology so much that I take technology from all sorts of companies, though everybody who knows me says, you cut Joey, you believe Microsoft Blue. True. But I love technology. People are wrong when they say everything's going to move to the cloud. It's not realistic. It's not how IT works. One thing that infuriates me is when people say, you have to go in with a forklift and rip out everything and throw it up into the cloud. Not how it works. Cloud technology, this is where the future is, folks. It's hybrid. In other words, sometimes I'm going to take advantage of public cloud services. Sometimes I'm going to let my application sit there running on that 12-year-old server that's sitting underneath the receptionist's desk. It's my decision, right? It's my decision as IT, what data needs to be where and how I can leverage that. So the reality is as we move forward, you're going to see this hybrid model for a significant amount of time. So let's look at our picture again. Remember we had our users, and our users were accessing applications, whether they be virtualized or running on metal, in our on-premises data center. Well, now here we've got this private cloud, which is basically taking all of the compute and storage and networking resources that we have in our organization and pooling them, putting together some sort of self-service system so that people, business unit IT organizations, or even our own internal IT can start requesting resources and leveraging those resources, right? And then with service providers, our users can access applications. Now, think about this. How many of you are Xbox Live gamers? How many of you use Xbox Live? You're using the cloud. How many of you have Hotmail accounts? Or Gmail? You're using the cloud. Those are cloud applications. In other words, we stand them up and we run them, and you don't have to worry about when the server falls over. That's our responsibility. That's also known as software as a service. Cloud application, right? There are cloud platforms. We have one that's called Windows Azure. I'm going to ask the question, how many of you have heard of Windows Azure? Okay, more than one hand. Awesome. Getting there, getting there. It's one of the technologies I have to evangelize. It's a developer technology right now. Stay tuned. These are the platforms to which we build applications to run on in the cloud. But here's the thing. They're not designed for that archaic architecture that we use to write applications for. You have to re-architect them. How many of you in your companies, and let's be open and honest, I promise this is not being taped, I'm not going to take any of this data back, have that one application that you have no idea where the developer is that wrote it. It just runs 90% of your business and it's sitting somewhere in a corner, and whenever somebody walks into the room, they go, don't touch the box. Raise your hands, come on, come clean with me. We all have that in our infrastructures. You may not know it yet. When you go get that job, you'll find out that there's that box, right? Re-architecting applications is not a simple thing. It's not something that can happen overnight. That's where cloud platform adoption is going to be a little tricky as we move forward. But it's definitely where we're moving to. Now, of course, I work for Microsoft, so I'm going to show you what the Microsoft Cloud Platform looks like. And the reality is my IT guy hat comes on here. This is a marketing slide. Okay, I got it from the marketing guys. It's all right. We'll put a technical spin on it. I talked about cloud platforms. We've got two. We've got public and we've got private. On the public side, we've got this thing called Windows Server. Anybody heard of it? I have heard Windows Server. I have this horrible, horrible fascination with Active Directory. It's been the biggest pain and thorn in my side, but I'll tell you what, once you get things fixed and working, you're like, best feeling in the world. We've got our management software known as System Center, right? And in the public cloud, we've got this thing called Windows Azure, which oddly enough happens to be built on the same fundamental technologies. It's Windows Server, people. Right? It's Windows Server, well, with some special pixie dust spread over the top, right? Checking the time and making sure I don't have to talk too long. That's basically what it is. Now, on top of that, we run applications. We run Link, we run Exchange, SharePoint, SQL Server. It's this little database thing, you might have heard of it, right? Dynamics for CRM. In the cloud, we have public cloud software as a service offerings for the same products. Office 365 does Exchange, SharePoint. We've got Dynamic CRM and this thing called SQL Azure. All right? It's just the same stuff that we deal with on our own premises today. If you're a SharePoint administrator, you can administer SharePoint in the cloud. If you're a Windows Server administrator, you can administer Windows Azure applications running in the cloud. It's the same thing. You're using System Center to monitor it, manage it. The skills that you learn today are going to translate to the future. Absolutely important. We have common technologies that help us and our users access this stuff. Our identity foundation. It's all Active Directory. It's Active Directory Federation. Oh, by the way, we can use LiveID. We can use Facebook. We can also use other identity providers by using access control services. By the way, these same access control services are what developers are using to build your on-premises infrastructure, where we can run them in the cloud. So all of these products that we use, like Active Directory, like Visual Studio for our developers, like System Center for our IT professionals to monitor and manage. The same technology and the same skills are shared across both public and private. And because of that, we can also offer best-in-class hybrid support. Because what we're running on our own premises, we, and by we I mean Microsoft, have to also run it in the cloud and connect it. It's one of my favorite times of year right now at Microsoft. Mid-year review, baby. Right? This is where we get together in a room and everybody sits down and talks about career planning and everything else, and we have to fill out forms and submit them. I'm usually the last one on my team that gets the form filled out and submitted. I was on the airplane. I was working on my performance review. I thought that it would just download through InfoPath onto my machine. I look at the URL, and it has our application.cloudapp.net. That means it's running Windows Azure. Right? So all the stuff that we're running today, we have to try that you want to run, we have to try to run it first. So we've got public, private, we've got hybrid, we've got the tools, and it's the same stuff you're doing today, people. Just get out of the business of the firefighter. That's where cloud is, right? Now, I want to talk about cloud opportunities or career opportunities as it relates to cloud. Do we feel better about cloud? Do we understand what it is? I mean, I could geek out with you guys for a couple hours. You probably don't want that. Like, I have a 32-slide deck for each one of the storage and another one for networking. If you guys want to get together over drinks, we'll do it later. Usually after about the 5th or 6th vodka tonic, I pretty much quit talking about the slides and start talking about DJing, but that's all right. This is kind of crazy because the number one thing I hear from IT professionals when I talk about cloud is, you're taking my job away. I see your heads nodding. Yeah, it's the first thing I said when I started hearing about cloud technologies. I went, what about the IT guys, right? My whole thing when I took my job at Microsoft is I got so sick and tired of all these developers. Developers can talk to Microsoft for free at any time. They've got all these events and everything else. Where's that for IT pros? Because if you're an IT guy, you got to pay to talk to Microsoft. Whether it's through a support incident, going to one of our conferences, that's what I kind of went to change. So like, I love the IT audience. I love my IT professionals, right? Even though we're 4-to-1 over the developers in terms of our numbers, right? I love them. But you know what? Your job isn't going away. You have to change. You have to move up. I love server huggers. I'm a server hugger. It's okay to have the data center in your basement. Not okay to have the data center in your mom's basement. Right? I love the technology. But there comes a time when you have to let go. You have to start moving up. You have to start doing translation, and this is where we're key. This is where we're lacking. Business leaders don't have the technical acumen to make technical decisions. The technical guys don't have the business knowledge and experience to make business decisions. That's where IT is moving. We have to be the translators. We have to be at the table. We have to say, look, it's okay. It's not no, the first word out of your mouth. How can we help you? We can do it better. We can do it cheaper. You're no longer waiting for 6 months to get that server, then another 3.5 weeks for the darn Cisco networking guys to get your networking set up. And then don't even get me started with the server, with the storage guys, because those guys are just impossible, right? Because it's one guy and he's working for 16 different companies at the same time, right? Or maybe it's just one guy and he's trying to manage all of it, right? The career opportunities are about moving up the chain. It's about leveraging the education and the skill set that you have today. If you're already on the path to certification, keep going, baby, because we're not going anywhere, right? Microsoft's been around for quite a while. Watching that video, that was awesome, because the guy went through about every single certification I have. Windows 3.1, Windows 3.1, and I didn't get certified in ME. We don't talk about ME. So how do these roles extend to the cloud? If you're in one of these buckets today, if you deal with security, if you deal with services, some sort of services engineer, you're responsible for a line of business application. If you're a network guy, cloud services are dependent upon a really, really big network. It's called the internet. You've got to have that skills, you've got to have that knowledge. If you are already doing virtualization and are hardcore into virtualization, virtualization is not cloud computing. It's a foundational technology in cloud computing, but it is not, I don't care what the other guys in California are saying, cloud computing. Why? Because you don't have management. You don't have self-service. You don't have all those other aspects that make it cloud computing. That make it so that my users can request a server so that they can develop against for a new application. And then, very quickly, within minutes, scale it from 1 to 10 servers. Can you imagine if you were the CIO for the Super Sneaker Company, and the Super Sneaker Company ended up on Oprah's Favorite Things? I know Oprah's not around anymore, but I've got to update the reference, but you all get it, right? What happens if the Super Sneaker ends up on Oprah's Favorite Things? What do you think is going to happen that afternoon when that episode airs to your web services? You're going to get crushed, right? If you didn't even know that Oprah was going to put it on her favorite things, there's no way you're prepared for that. So all of a sudden your website gets absolutely crushed. You're on the phone frantically calling Dell or HP going, I need servers now, help me. They ship them to you overnight. You're still 2 days away from getting them actually onboarded. 2 days later, you've lost potentially millions of customers that won't ever come back. And then when that wave of Oprah's Favorite Things dies down, you're standing there holding 40 servers going, what the heck am I going to do with these things? Right? And this is where cloud computing, particularly public cloud computing, helps. because you've got on-demand resources that you use when you need them, and then you put them away when you don't. And the great thing is, I'm not paying for it if I'm not using it. This is what gets me excited about it. So your position, up and coming, learn the business side, learn the IT side, and be able to translate it. Now, you don't have to be hardcore geeky like me. Though the reality is if Microsoft figures out how dumb I really am, I'm out the door, right? I work in a world where I'll tell you what, you stand there talking to some of these engineers, your head explodes, right? It's awesome. I love that. These jobs, guys, I know of 30,000 jobs related to cloud technology that will go unfilled this year. And we're in what, March? February? What month is it? What's today, Mike? Right? Jobs are going to go unfilled. People don't have the skills. IT organizations are dying to have people to help with this stuff, that understand cloud technologies, that will learn it and get certified on it. And if you're currently in a job and you're like, man, I don't know where the next step is, this is it. And you're not having to completely go back to school and revamp all of this stuff, right? Learn how to embrace cloud computing. Learn how to embrace in these technologies. Traditional corporate boundaries, including IT boundaries, start to break down as companies start to progress, as users demand more services, as users demand more uptime. Okay? So as your existing scales start increasing, you become more valuable. You don't know how valuable those roles are. Get those skills. Because I've seen some of the salaries that have been offered to some of my friends who work in, they used to do nothing but like storage stuff, and they've started embracing the cloud, and they're making some serious dollars because nobody else can do it. And the other cool thing, they're at the table with the CEO, and there is nothing better than when the CEO asks, how are we going to fix this problem? You have the answer, right? So get that in-depth knowledge. Thank you guys very much for your time. I hope you enjoyed it.